Hello, hello.
Aha, we do appear to have audio. Let's do this. All right. Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing this morning? Oh, hey, look. It's just me. I get to be in charge of everything. It's Me More Monday, and it's a control freak edition Me More Monday because, well, I get to be in charge of everything. So, how y'all doing this morning? I'm pretty good. We have a good weekend. Our weekend was okay. Let's see. Things of note that happened this week. Oh, yeah. That's right. Georgia made its way to the national playoffs. That's right, friends. Rematch with Alabama for the national title. 1 week from today. Well, 1 week plus a few hours, because obviously they're going to play at night instead of during the morning. But I am looking forward to it. I strongly suspect that it won't be so easy for Alabama this go round. Now, let's see. Who all do we have this morning? Good morning to Patrick, and good morning to Steve Rodemeyer, and good morning to Cast Iron Chaos, which is a fantastic name. I am just Cameron Anderson on YouTube. Apparently, I've done something wrong. So, this morning, we are talking about one of the walking memes, and good morning, Doris. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a walking meme for good and for ill, and as Steve says, could we have found a less flattering pic of that girl for the thumbnail? You know, that's funny because you actually have to hunt for a pic of Marjorie Taylor Greene that's not flattering. So, I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so, since I'm in the show by myself, I'm going to attempt to answer the chat as often as possible, but it's actually a lot more difficult when there's just one person here. And we're doing everything solo. I say we, I mean I'm doing everything solo. It does make things a bit trickier. So, let's just jump right into it. We're gonna read an article, and then there's some things that I'm gonna react to, a couple of points that I'm gonna make, and we're gonna do this. Okay. Twitter permanently suspends Marjorie Taylor Greene's account for spreading COVID-19 misinformation. Hello? There we go. Twitter has permanently suspended Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal account for spreading COVID-19 misinformation. We permanently suspended Marjorie Taylor Greene for repeated violations of our COVID-19 misinformation policy, Twitter said in a statement as first reported by CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan. We've been clear that per our strike system of this policy, we will permanently suspend accounts for repeated violations of the policy. Twitter said in March it would permanently suspend accounts that reportedly post COVID-19 vaccine misinformation. The official representative account for Greene, a freshman Republican from Georgia, remains active on Twitter. Greene responded to Twitter's decision on Getter, the conservative social media platform launched by Jason Miller, who is the chief spokesman for former President Donald Trump's 2016 campaign and a senior advisor to the former president's 2020 campaign. When Maxine Waters can go to the streets and threaten violence on Twitter, Kamala and Ilhan can bail out rioters on Twitter, and chief spokesman for terrorist IRGC can tweet, "Morning Soleimani, but I get suspended for tweeting Veer's statistics. Twitter is an enemy to America and can't handle the truth. That's fine. I'll show America we don't need them, and it's time to defeat our enemies." I'm going to break real quick just to say, yes, I mean, if you haven't gotten the memo yet, social media generally seems to be the enemy of the Republicans, especially conservatives, and not just Republicans and not just conservatives, but your enemy, okay? If you have the wrong think, social media has a problem with you, okay? It just is what it is. Like, and I say this as somebody that's been engaged with social media for years now, helping Chris run a show, and yet I fully understand that, you know, Chris and I walk into every single one of these situations with 2 strikes against us, and I also understand I have to be very careful as I go into analysis here, because the strike we're operating under doesn't expire for a few more days. Okay. Democratic Rep. Maxine Waters of California has repeatedly been the target of criticism by conservatives for comments from 2018 when she encouraged people to push back on members of the Trump administration in public and tell them that they're not welcome anymore. Huh. I bet that's not considered insurrection, though. Greene also made an unsubstantiated connection concerning Vice President Kamala Harris and Rep. Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and their support of the Minnesota Freedom Fund, a non-profit organization that assists low-income individuals who need money for bail. Some conservatives have equated support of the fund to a desire to bail out rioters who destroyed property after the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis last year. Okay, this is an interesting example of framing in how the media, they'll say words. The words will technically be true, and yet it can lead you to some conclusions that might actually be false. Greene also made an unsubstantiated connection concerning Vice President Kamala Harris and Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Okay, this article's from MSN. So when they say something is unsubstantiated, that means MSN doesn't think it's been substantiated. It doesn't mean that it's not true, and I am not saying that it is or it's not true, but, you know, if you had to guess if it was option A or option B, which one is more likely? Just saying. And but in all seriousness, I'm not saying it's true, but I can't help but see language like that and become suspicious, because Greene made an unsubstantiated connection. You know, they didn't say Greene made a false connection. You notice that? Just let that cook in the noodle for a second. Okay. Greene's suspension from Twitter comes nearly a year after the social media platform permanently suspended Trump from accessing his account, citing the possibility of further incitement of violence following the deadly January 6th siege of the Capitol by Trump supporters. Okay, yeah, the deadly siege. Let's see, who was it deadly for? Ashley Babbitt. Nope, that's it. I think that was the only person that was killed that day. And yeah, she was unarmed and was shot by a cop. Oh well, I guess she didn't look like George Floyd, so it's not really that big of a tragedy. Since her election to the House, Greene has become one of the most polarizing politicians on Capitol Hill, reveling in the sort of partisan combat that defined the Trump presidency. Last February, only weeks after assuming office, Greene was stripped of her committee assignments, an extraordinary move taken by the Democratic-controlled House after the Congresswoman promoted a range of conspiracy theories and endorsed political violence on social media. She has continued to attract attention for her extreme rhetoric and antics, a confrontation that Greene initiated with Representative Cori Bush of Missouri led the Democratic congresswoman to switch Capitol Hill offices to escape the immediate orbit of the Georgia Republican. In May, Greene compared mask mandates to the Holocaust and apologized for her comments the next month, but then compared President Joe Biden's calls to vaccinate Americans against the coronavirus to the Nazi regime. Biden pushing a vaccine that is not FDA approved shows COVID is a political tool used to control people, she tweeted in July. People have a choice. They don't need your medical brown shirts showing up at their door ordering vaccinations. You can't force people to be part of the human experiment. Okay, here's the thing with the Nazi comparison. If you want to say that it's overused, that it's inappropriate, fine, that's fair. But stop doing it, okay? I'm somebody that has been interested in politics literally for decades, since I was in high school. I mean, like quarter of a century now. And I have heard this lie for my entire life that when the right goes too far, that it's fascist, that it's racist, and it's sexist. And, man, the Nazis are what happens when you go too far. Maybe right-wing in European parlance is what happens when you go too far. Nazis are what happen when you go too far with the right wing. But if you go too far to the right here in America, I mean, if you're looking at it purely philosophically speaking, you devolve into anarchism. Because being on the right, being a conservative in this country, means you are a conservative of limited government and limited federal interference. I mean, that's just a fact, okay? The whole thing where the Marxists came along and tried to insult the U.S. Constitution by saying, oh, it's a charter of negative liberties. You know, guys like me heard that and were like, actually, yeah, it is. That tracks. It's a list of things that the government, in theory, is not allowed to do. And I'll point to this example over and over and over again till the day that I die. When we wanted to make alcohol illegal in this country, we amended the Constitution to make alcohol illegal. And then when we said, God, that was stupid, all it did was increase gang violence, turn thousands of citizens into criminals, and nobody quit drinking. Okay, we're going to undo it. And so we amend the Constitution again. Okay, that is what the right is in this country. So if you really have a problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene pointing out, and YouTube, I'm going to ride the guardrails on the banhammer here, okay? But understand, this is not medical advice, okay? I dare say in the scheme of things that could be compared to Nazi behavior, having the federal government force you to take a piece of medicine that has been approved for emergency use only at this point, I'd say that that's actually a little closer to Nazi behavior than, I don't know, wanting to flatten out the tax code and simplify it for everybody, or for resisting Obamacare because you understand that that will lead to socialized medicine. A thing that, that's right, the Nazis were okay with. That's right, nationalized medicine. Now, Steve actually says that she's guilty of the hyperbole that was used toward Trump in a much higher measure. Can't have that, can we? The point that you're driving to about hypocrisy, I'm going to get to here shortly, Steve. I just want to pop over real quick before I kind of freeform and go into some analysis. I'm going to look at the Fox News article. I just want to see the difference in the framing. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia had her personal verified Twitter account permanently banned for spreading COVID-19 misinformation. Okay, same thing. Permanently suspended per our strike policy, blah, 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 blah. Responded on Getter. When Maxine Waters can go to the streets. Man, those first several paragraphs were almost identical. On Saturday, Greene tweeted about an extremely high amount of COVID vaccine deaths that are ignored, Rolling Stone reported. Now, YouTube, let me be clear. I'm just quoting Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am not saying anything about the vaccine. The oh holy vaccine. That everybody should totally get the vaccine, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Everybody go get it right now. And when they say you need your 98th booster, it's going to be awesome. YouTube, these are jokes. This is sarcasm. Just trying to ride that guardrail. Anyhow. Twitter had reportedly suspended Greene's account over the course of the pandemic for alleged misinformation. Most recently in August, she was suspended for 1 week and threatened with a permanent ban after she said COVID-19 vaccines were failing. So, we just went through the entire Fox News article. Man, no mention of January 6th, no mention of George Floyd. And look, let me be clear. I'm not saying Fox News is your friend, okay? But do we see the difference here? I hope we do. Like, again, and then that one just beautiful paragraph where it was unsubstantiated connections between Maxine Waters and Ilhan Omar and bail funds. Not false. Unsubstantiated. That's J-Law wording there. Okay, so, first things first. Twitter. Let me make sure you understand something, okay? I lived in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, okay? You are guaranteeing she gets reelected, right? The people in that district voted for her because she would say these kinds of things. So, as the story was breaking, I was in my car yesterday, and I heard this quote from Bill Crane, and I tried to find it so I could just play it so that I wouldn't just have to pull it from memory. But Bill Crane said, in his arrogant voice that made me want to punch my radio, that Marjorie Taylor Greene continues to make decisions that embarrass herself and embarrass her district and embarrass the state of Georgia and really anybody that wants to believe Marjorie Taylor Greene, anybody that wants to believe Georgia is an up and coming state and a place to do business and blah, blah, blah. So basically, Marjorie Taylor Greene is stupid and embarrassment, and you are stupid and an embarrassment if you support her. Again, I lived in that district for like a decade. People are not embarrassed by Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're excited by her. I mean, again, interested in politics for a quarter century now. I've seen the perfect politician. The guy who speaks well and says all the right things. Hell, there was one named Barack Obama that just about crashed our economy. And then, well, not just about, he did crash our economy. And then, this total jerk and bullshit artist came along named Donald Trump. And I mean, and it was like a miracle. Like a year later, suddenly we're starting to break economic records. So, when we say that Marjorie Taylor Greene is an embarrassment, is she really though? And I saw somebody in the chat, and it's fine. You could say, I'm just here to point and laugh at Marjorie Taylor Greene. I get it. And sometimes it is kind of cringy to see somebody who should be an adult act like less than an adult. That's a fair point. But we continue to do things the way that the political elites would have us do. These are the rules they say we have to follow. We follow the rules, and then we don't get what we want. We lose. We fail. So why continue to follow the rules? The lesson that Donald Trump taught everybody is that actually you can be a bull in a china shop and get a lot of shit done. And there were times where Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene would say things that were embarrassing, would even get things incorrect. But when Trump would say, for example, we're going to build the wall, we all knew intuitively and understood what he meant by that. Okay? When Trump said that Mexico is sending us the criminals and the rapists and everything, we knew intuitively that he was not calling all Mexicans sexual predators. Because he talked like an actual person. And Marjorie Taylor Greene attempted to talk like an actual person, especially from the district. I can assure you, the stuff that Marjorie Taylor Greene says is not the most outlandish thing you will hear, just like at the local McDonald's out there, okay? Now, there is a piece of pushback that I heard that I felt like is legitimate, and I wanted to address it. Scott Adams asked a question, and I think this is a fair question to ask. If you were in charge of a multi-million-dollar company, which means you've got millions of dollars in liability, by the by, if you're in charge of a multi-million-dollar company and somebody is using your company to spread information that you sincerely believe has the potential to kill millions of people, what do you do? And Scott, I gotta say, that is a fair question. I can tell you're not a total libtard because it actually requires a little bit of brain power to ask the question and a little bit more brain power to answer the question. The problem, I would say, with that question is we have to assume that Twitter is operating in good faith. And I can't make that assumption. I just can't. So, it started with just the president getting suspended from Twitter, okay? And that was a big deal because when Donald Trump would tweet, he would literally circumnavigate the entire media, communicate directly with you and I. It's fantastic, really. I would take the occasional covfefe and things of that nature just to have the direct line from the president. And even though sometimes his opinions would swing wildly, fine, whatever. Donald Trump likes John Bolton on Monday and wants to fire John Bolton on Friday. Fine, at least I know. At least I'm getting it straight from the horse's mouth. And then because of the January 6th insurrection that wasn't an insurrection, the day of deadliness that seemed to only kill Ashley Babbitt, suddenly he's not allowed on Twitter anymore. We were like, hey, yo, this is a bad precedent to set, guys. We probably shouldn't do that. And now we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is also suspended. And that's not counting all the other people who were suspended. My dad, Papa Sheepdog, shortly before he passed, he liked to tweet. He liked to troll and tweet, as a matter of fact. He was fun to follow on Twitter. He got his account suspended and never got a clear answer on it. And Jeremy from The Quartering, in regard to the whole Jack Murphy thing, that we'll probably do some kind of brief follow-up on. We don't want to spend a lot of time on it because, oh, Jack, it's at the point now where I feel sorry for you. You've pretty much destroyed yourself. Not too late to man up and apologize and admit your mistakes, though. But I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Somehow Jeremy from The Quartering got his Twitter account suspended for about 24 hours and probably has something to do with the Jack Murphy situation, but he was never given a clear reason. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's a congresswoman. She's got enough juice to say, hey, Twitter, WT fuck, what are you doing? So they had to give a reason. They had to give an official explanation. And saying that she's spreading COVID-19 misinformation, oh, that sounds good. But here's the problem, okay? Here's the big problem. It's always been so one-sided. And it has been from the beginning. When YouTube did its first big wave of demonetizations and Facebook and all that, for some reason Diamond and Silk got whacked. Like, oh, can't have a couple of sassy black women that are actually conservative Republicans that love Donald Trump be part of the social consciousness. That doesn't fit the narrative, as it were. And if it was just one or two incidents, sure, okay, fine. But the fact that it's happened over and 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 over again. And like 90% of the time, it's guys on, and girls, excuse me, don't mean to assume your gender, but it's people like us that, that seem to get shadow banned or just get outright banned. And so, Scott, I understand your question. I really do. And I even understand the implication behind not only could Twitter potentially get millions of people killed, but Twitter could be sued into the dirt because they allowed this kind of information. Fine. They're no longer a platform. They're a publisher. Pick a lane, social media. Pick a damn lane. They don't intend to. They get the benefits of both without having the negatives of either one. Well, frankly, it's a deal that any one of us would take if we felt like we could get away with it. But I digress. But it is the hypocrisy. And it is, I'm going to say this very carefully, one of the biggest problems with COVID, and like the 30,000 overview sense, not the fact that COVID is a disease, it's brand new, it's spread across the entire world and made a bunch of people sick, and legitimately thousands of people have died from it and all that. Yes, fine. But one of the absolute biggest problems with it is confidence in our institutions was already extremely low when COVID began to become a thing. I was trying to remember if Chris and I started talking about COVID in November of 2019 or December of 2019. But he and I were ahead of the curve, as many of the internet punditry were. Like, guys like us were going, hey, there's a really weird thing going on in China right now. We might ought to pay attention. This could be a pandemic. And, we were crazy and stupid and all those things. Whoops. And we've run down the list before. All of the wizards of smart told us all these things about COVID, that it's this, that it's that. I mean, let's not forget, just a little more than a year ago, the very same people, like, I don't know, Kamala Harris, for example, that are pushing to get the vaccine, said that, there's no way I'd take that vaccine. It's Trump's vaccine. Huh. But now it's totally a thing that you're not even allowed to question it. And again, let me be clear. I am not saying the vaccine is good or bad or anything like that. Actually, no, YouTube, that's wrong. I'm saying the vaccine is wonderful. In fact, it should come with gold-plated needles. But now suddenly, hey man, you gotta go get the vaccine. It's socially irresponsible. You're in for a winter of death if you don't go get the vaccine. I mean, and everything in between. There's the COVID, pish pah. Don't be a racist. Go hug a Chinese person. Like, no. This has not got anything to do with Chinese people. And are you gaslighting me? I feel like you're gaslighting me. Because this doesn't have anything to do with Chinese people. We're just saying it's a Chinese virus because it appears to, have come from China. You know why they call it Ebola, right? Huh? You know why they called it the Spanish flu, right? Right? It wasn't because people are racist. And then, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear two masks. Maybe the vaccine will work, maybe the vaccine won't work. Oh, the vaccine's wonderful. And so, as we swing back and forth between all of these points of view, and we continue to have Dr. Fauci on board that just will say whatever he wants in that aggravating and condescending tone of voice. There's a reason why people don't trust, generally, what's going on with COVID. I dare say that even if you were to take us and the most intelligent people in our chat and you were to poll us what we think about COVID-19, just give us like a 25-question questionnaire, I think it's fair to say that none of us would get all 25 of those questions right. Even though we share the same basic pool of information, we've probably even arrived at different conclusions and have different opinions just amongst ourselves. Because there's been that much information out there about COVID. And what kind of information has been out there about COVID? Well, part of the problem is it would appear that some of the information that's been stricken down in the past, like talking about hydroxychloroquine for a while, could get you kicked off social media platforms. There was a time when talking about hydroxychloroquine would get you a strike on YouTube. And then President Trump got COVID and took hydroxychloroquine to help treat COVID. And so I guess the point that I'm getting to here is, because it's coming up on 8 o'clock and it's time to wrap up, not only does suspending Marjorie Taylor Greene make people more suspicious, make people more inclined to believe the opposite of whatever the official line is, okay? I mean, you want to talk about the little boy who cried wolf times 1,000. You know, everything I learned about life, I learned from watching Star Trek. There's a fantastic character named Garrick, who's an alien. Here's the story of the little boy who cried wolf for the first time. And of course, we are taught that the moral of the story is, don't lie. Well, what Garrick takes away from the story is, no, just don't tell the wrong lie. Tell the right lie, okay? And it's like our masters, the Wizards of Smart, they're not even trying to tell us the right lie. It's right there in our face. It's right there, right next to Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, right? I mean, right there in your face. And so now Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a hyperbolic fashion, questions how effective the vaccines are. I'm not. Vaccines are wonderful. But Marjorie Taylor Greene questions how effective vaccines are and gets booted off Twitter. And just given the fact that so many other things, topics that were absolute verboten, now actually had at least some partial degree of truth to them weeks or months later, not only are there going to be people that are even more disenchanted with, whatever the narrative coming from our overlords is, now there are going to be people that go and find her archived tweet, read it, and believe it. Twitter, you really, 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 really want to stop with the whole misinformation thing? Does Kamala still have her account? Because I remember when she said she would never get the vaccine. Remember that? I remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Anyhow, y'all, I'm gonna, since I've basically ignored you cool cats and kittens over here, I'm gonna go back through and just make sure I didn't miss any nuggets of gold and call it a day. Let's see. Scrimshaw Rose popped up. The Doris Brown, good morning, good morning. Nady Too Good. That, good morning. Let's see. Oh, Rod showed up. And he seemed to agree. Conservatives believe in having government, though limited. Biden and Harris both spoke about the vaccine before the election. Their accounts should have been suspended right there. Well, I don't know that I agree. I don't think you should be able to suspend somebody's account, especially if they're a public figure, as long as they're not calling for direct violence. So, Hamas. Just saying. Rod says, I took the Johnson & Johnson shot after consulting with 2 different PhD pharmacists. The science says waterborne virus particles in the air are mighty small. You do that in... Alex from Polytech is here. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Let's see. And then Joe Rogan had more to do with... I think that's the discussion about hydroxychloroquine and maybe some ivermectin. Okay. And then, Steve says, I had it last week. He's been vaxxed since March. And just to finish it up, Fauci says that hospitalizations among fully vaccinated people are on the rise. And good morning to Sean Stryker. Look, thank all y'all for stopping in. Love Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hate Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't give a damn about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is going to have the opposite effect. All this is going to do is further entrench people like myself, like the majority of the people I see popping up in the chat. You're guaranteeing that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to get reelected because she's going to go around to her district and she's going to say, I'm spitting so much fire, they kicked me off Twitter. I mean, I guarantee you, I lived in that district for a decade. That is a winning campaign strategy for her. She won't have to say a damn thing else. I'm dropping the truth bomb so hard they kicked me off Twitter. This is in no way going to decrease misinformation about COVID-19 or vaccines or any of that. And, in fact, it's going to have the opposite effect. There are going to be fewer people that get the vaccine as a result of this. I guarantee it. And I'm not saying you should. You should totally get vaxxed. It's the best vaccine ever. But there are going to be fewer people that get the vaccine because of this. Whenever you push information underground, it does not disappear. That is not how it works. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. So whenever you push something like this underground, you just force the people that might discuss these things to discuss it in private. And now there's no check on the extremist elements. Just saying. One of the nice things about having this chat here on YouTube is if I were to ever go full-blown crazy, it wouldn't be that hard to come and slap the cuffs on me and take me to jail. Doris Brown says it may become, have you been kicked off Twitter? No? Then I can't vote for you. That is fantastic. Well, folks, I'm a few minutes over. One more time. Go dogs, go dogs, go dogs. And Twitter. In fact, all social media. Guys, come on, we're onto your game. Stop it. Stop it. You really want to stop the torches and pitchforks? Don't push those people underground. Don't do it. Y'all have a nice day.